Hello, everybody. My name is Thor Young. I'm a moderator at Bearable Traders, and I'm going to be doing a recap for you today on my trade. The trade I'm recapping today is NKLA. I wanted to specifically recap this trade for you today because it talks and shows a lot about pivots and some nice pivots. Also happens to be an afternoon trade. Which a lot of people are looking for more of. And I want to give you kind of some good ideas on how to isolate some good areas where you can get in and get some afternoon trades going. So before I get started, one thing to find pivots and to be ready for those that's going to really help you out is being able to actually identify them near major key levels. And those you can find in the pre-market show with Carlos and Norm. So if you should happen to have the time, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell, and then when we go live, you will be able to get all of those beautiful levels too. So I'm trading NKLA here, and one thing that NKLA did is it had a really pretty nice looking upwardly trend going, right? Well, NKLA found a top here and it started to fall off, so I was finally looking for an opportunity to get in on these. I generically don't like getting in for just regular continuations. I seem to miss those a lot, so I really like waiting for really good retests of really strong pivots and levels, and those really give me a lot more confidence. And I want to show you a really good way to isolate some of these so that they really help you out. So first off, as this starts to sell down, I need to kind of get an idea of where I think it's going to go down to. And one of the best ways to do that is to look into this opening range here and look for the cleanest pivot that you can find, and it comes out to be pretty obvious. I have it marked right here and you can actually see it formed right here. Now, a pivot, as I define it and as most do, pivots are created on volume, and they generically happen with a large candle moving in a particular direction followed by indecision, and then a large candle moving away from it. So you can see here we had this big move up, indecision, big move down. So if you can keep that in your head, that's what I use all the time. Big candle up, indecision, big candle down. Or, and like I say it, big move up, indecision, big move down. It doesn't have to happen in 3 candles. It can take 3, 4, or 5 candles to do it, but the cleanest, the best pivots, they normally do it just like that, and they look really nice. Now, that pivot also happens to coincide with this high area before. See how unclean this one is, which just really made it not quite as reliable, and it was hard to judge off of that. Now, technically, this also was the beginning part of this pivot, but it doesn't meet the criteria to really consider it to be. This one, however, absolutely beautiful. So now that I have a good pivot to the low side, the question will be what happens next. Now we're falling down towards this price, so now I really need a volume indicator. I need a when is it time to go. I need some kind of a trigger to tell me that this is going to be a good spot to take along. So my pivot I have marked here, and you can see, look how it lines up here. Look how it lines up here. I mean, it really is a nice, clean pivot. Notice here I have marked another pivot. Look, big move up, indecision, big move down. Look how well that held. And we'll see how that pivot comes into play later. So we come down here, and then some market news came out about the government looking into BABA's payment processor, I believe, which caused the market to freak out a little bit, and then it immediately moved down in quick fashion. It can be really easy to spot these fake moves, or these kind of, what do you call them, an over emotional move, because what you end up getting this. Look at the deviation here in the ATR on this candle. We had this really big sell down, but it sold down with very little volume. This price was moved by the market makers way more than it should have been, because we didn't have coinciding volume with that. So this was really kind of a fake out. And you can kind of see that because you just have this massive deviation in the ATR, leaving this gap here, which just, it's just kind of a little telltale sign, that things aren't quite what they look like when you start seeing that kind of stuff. So as the stock goes down here, notice big move down, indecision, big move up. I decided that it honored my pivot here by actually setting an additional pivot. So we now have 2 pivots basically on top of each other, one from the bottom side, one from the top side. I'm liking this. So I went ahead and went long with the loss of my pivot. Now, it takes a little bit of while for me to get to my 2-to-1, but there it is. And not too long though, and we got to the 2-to-1 there. And then notice it was after we transitioned above this pivot. Now, after a little while, we kind of get a little weak after we sell up a little bit too much here, and we come down, and notice what happens. We test, and I decide I'm going to go ahead and add in. My stop loss was 24, which was just the low of this candle. Why did I feel comfortable about adding here? Because we had tested and held this pivot over and over and over again. We moved up here, got into the new range. I took partial when the volume came in with it, and then I held on here and got another partial here. And my next target is at 25.47. And I almost got there on this move here, but unfortunately didn't. Now, we had a big volume move up, so that would have been a good spot to take a partial. But notice when we came down here, big volume move down that bought back up. So I think we could still get to 25.50. Why is my target 25.50? I want to show you here on the level 2. 25.50 has a really large accumulation of sellers up there. So I'm sitting at 25.47 in front of them, because I want to make sure that if the price runs for them, that I get filled first. I only got one partial left after that, and I'm probably going to hold that for the end of day just to see what happens. So when you're going to do a trade and you're going to put your whole trade together, if you're having trouble struggling with how to identify your entries and exits, a recommendation that I have is to start using pivots. All right, combined with volume analysis, volume and price analysis, these pivots can be insanely useful. You can see that NKLA here traded utilizing those pivots I marked for the entire day. All right, we also have key daily levels that held ever so beautifully, right? My entry here is above a pivot and a key daily level, right? Yesterday's high. So there's so many different things going off of these levels. So if you're having a little bit of trouble, use those, and I think you'll find yourself on the right side of the trade more often. And it looks like we're on our way up to 25.47. Fingers crossed I'm about to get filled. But I hope everyone enjoys this recap. If you did, please throw me a like. That would be awesome. And otherwise, keep it green.